Here's a magic trick your brain performs every single day. Take an ordinary coffee mug, worth about $5. Hand it to someone and make it theirs. Wait a few minutes. Now ask them to sell it back. Suddenly they want 10. Nothing about the mug changed. It didn't get rarer or prettier or more useful. The only thing that changed is who owned it. That's the endowment effect, and it is quietly mispricing everything you own, from the junk in your garage to the stocks in your portfolio to the price you'd put on your own home. In the minutes ahead, you'll see the classic experiment that proved ownership inflates value. You'll get the reason your brain does this. You'll see the 4 places it's costing you real money right now, and you'll get a simple test that lets you price things like an outsider. Let's start with the experiment itself, because it's one of the cleanest demonstrations in all of behavioral economics. In 1990, Daniel Kahneman, Jack Knetsch, and Richard Thaler published a study built around university coffee mugs. The setup was simple. Walk into a classroom, give mugs to half the students chosen at random. The other half get nothing. Now you have owners and non-owners of the exact same object, created seconds ago by pure chance. Ask the owners, what's the minimum you'd accept to sell your mug? Ask the non-owners, what's the maximum you'd pay to buy one? If people price things rationally, those numbers should sit close together. It's a mug. Nobody has a sentimental history with it. It was assigned by coin flip minutes earlier, but the sellers demanded roughly twice what the buyers were willing to pay, around $7 to give it up, against around $3 to acquire it. And because of that gap, far fewer trades happened than economic theory predicted. The researchers repeated the design with pens and other goods, and the gap kept appearing. And here's the tell. When they reran it with tokens that were basically just stand-ins for cash, the gap disappeared. So this isn't people being bad at math. It's something specific about owning a real thing and calling it yours. Take that as your first practical rule. Whenever you price something you already own, assume your number is inflated, probably close to double. So why does ownership warp value like this? The best explanation is loss aversion. For most of us, losing something hurts about twice as much as gaining the same thing feels good. Watch what ownership does. The moment that mug becomes yours, it joins your pile of stuff, what economists call your endowment. From then on, selling it doesn't feel like a simple swap of a cup for money. It feels like a loss. And your brain prices losses at roughly double, the same 2-to-1 gap we saw between the sellers and the buyers. Loss aversion, showing up on a price tag. Researchers still argue about the fine details, but that gap turns up again and again. Thaler himself had named the effect back in 1980. After noticing things like a man who owned wine, he would never dream of buying at the current price, but also refuse to sell at that same price. To see how fast ownership takes hold, look at another version of the experiment, this one with a twist. Half a class got coffee mugs, the other half got chocolate bars. Then everyone was offered the chance to swap. If preferences were clean, roughly half of each group should trade, since the assignment was random. Instead, the large majority on both sides kept whatever they had been handed. Ownership that was minutes old already dominated their preferences. People weren't choosing the thing they liked more, they were avoiding the feeling of giving something up. Here's how to catch this in yourself. Listen for the sentence, I wouldn't buy this today, but I don't want to sell it. Rationally, that's a contradiction. If it's not worth buying at this price, it's not worth holding at this price. But emotionally, it makes perfect sense. Because buying and selling feel like 2 different things to your brain. One is a gain you can take or leave. The other is a loss. Now let's count the cost. Place number 1. Selling your home or your car. Owners anchor on what the thing is worth to them, with all the memories and effort baked in. That's why so many listings sit unsold for months, priced above what any outsider would pay. The buyer isn't purchasing your memories. They're not included in the sale, and they never were. Place number 2. Investments you already hold. This one's subtle, so let's be precise. It isn't about whether a stock is up or down. It's about why you keep holding it. When a position has fallen, selling means making the loss real and admitting you were wrong, and the brain hates both. So people hold losers far too long, waiting to get back to even and end up losing more. But what you paid is already history. Holding or selling can't change it. The only honest question is forward-looking. With a cold head, is this still the best place for this money from here? If it is, stay in with confidence. If the one reason it's still there is that selling would sting, that's loss aversion making the call, not you. Place number 3, clutter. The garage or closet full of things too valuable to sell for what they'd actually fetch. So instead of fetching a fair price, they fetch nothing at all, year after year, while you pay in space and mental load. And place number 4 is the sneaky one, marketing that manufactures ownership on purpose. Free trials, 30-day money-back guarantees, test drives. Try before you buy. Why are companies so generous? Because they know the experiment we just covered. Once the thing is in your home, in your hands, in your driveway, it enters your endowment. Returning it stops feeling like canceling a purchase and starts feeling like a loss. The return window quietly expires, and the endowment effect closes the sale. Generous return policies aren't kindness. They're applied behavioral science. So how do you fight back? You learn to price like an outsider, and the whole method fits in one question. If I didn't own this, what would I pay for it today? Not what you paid, not what it's worth to you. What would today you, walking in fresh, hand over in cash? That number, uncomfortable as it usually is the market's number. A few supporting moves make it stick, one for each place we just covered. For your home or car, get an outside quote before you set your own price, and treat that number as your anchor, not your gut. For investments, separate the decision from the feeling. The price you paid is water under the bridge. It can't be undone by holding or selling. So ask with a cold head. Knowing what I know today, is this still the right home for this money? If it is, stay in. If you're only holding on so you don't have to admit you were wrong, that's the bias talking. And that's exactly when to decide with your head instead of your fear. For clutter, price things to sell within a week, not to honor what they meant to you. The memory stays with you either way. Only the object leaves. And for free trials, decide before the box arrives what would justify keeping it, and write that down. If it doesn't clear the bar you set while you were still objective, back it goes. Step back for a moment. The endowment effect is loss aversion wearing a price tag. The moment something becomes yours, selling it stops being a trade and starts being a loss, and your brain quietly doubles the price. That's why sellers in the mug experiment wanted twice what buyers would pay, why students wouldn't swap mugs for chocolate, why houses sit overpriced, why debt investments stay parked, why garages stay full, and why free trials convert so well. You can't turn this off. Even the researchers who discovered it say they feel it. But you can outprice it. Ask what you would pay today if you didn't own it. Get outside numbers before your own, and let those answers make the decision instead of the feeling of loss. One quick note before we close. This is about how ownership bends our judgment, not financial advice. When you're actually pricing a home, a car, or an investment, bring in a qualified professional who knows your situation. If this explained a price tag you've been defending, subscribe. The whole channel is small, careful breakdowns of how the mind handles money, always grounded in the actual research. There's a growing library of them here, one bias at a time. So pick another one and keep going. The more of these you can spot, the harder they are for your own brain to pull on you.